Wow, are we on? Yes, 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 yes. How exciting. After 6 months of heavy hard work, supported by many corporate partners, but also our mentors, as well as the wider F10 network, we can gather tonight, or this afternoon rather, to celebrate, to network, but also to learn. It should be an opportunity for everyone to find additional ideas, to be inspired, and also encouraged to try and innovate. Dear partners, dear founders, dear investors, dear mentors, dear friends of DF10, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Global Summit in Switzerland. My name is Mark Hauser, and together with the F10 Switzerland team, it's our pleasure to host this afternoon. Before we dive into all the content, it's my honor to welcome Andreas Itten on stage. You all know him as the co-founder, but also global CEO of F10. Andy, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so thank you very much. So warm welcome also from my side. A lot of very familiar faces. I think it's almost 2 years ago when I was in front of an audience like this. So it's really, very good to be able to speak to real persons, right? This is great. So it's very exciting. Thanks very much for coming. However, I think if we wouldn't have done this week, I'm not sure if we would, again sit in front of a computer and maybe watching into cameras. And, I think the thing who really makes me feel bad is that I have to look at myself the whole day. This is really, it's really bad. So, but let's talk a little bit about F10 and, what happened this year, and also look a little bit into the past. The ecosystem, has developed, as you can see. Many things have changed over the last 2 years, but I would like to reflect on a couple of numbers just to give you a little bit impression of, the F10 ecosystem on a global scale. So look first a bit, at the investment side. So we have a lot of companies here. They are looking for investments. We run these programs. We, connect the corporates with our startups and vice versa, obviously. And we receive 2,500 applications per year in the three global hubs we have. Like there's a lot of companies coming to us and want to get into the program. And we did some statistics on the past. F10 has been founded back in 2015. So since then, we already had like 10,000 companies where we did an assessment on. So we basically looked at 10,000 companies in the FinTech and InsurTech space, which is quite a lot, I guess, right? It shows a little bit, the massive amount of companies, in the industry, as well as the massive amount of companies who are interested into F10. So out of the 10,000 applications we had since 2015, we had more than 200, joining one of our programs, be it here in Switzerland for a couple of years, in Spain, in Singapore, so the 3 hubs we have. So it's a 2%. 2% of the 10,000 really make it into the program, which means we're quite selective, right? And I think this is what we need to do. We want to be selective. We only want to have the best ones here at F10. And looking a little bit, what they were able to raise in terms of funding, because this is one number which I think is very interesting to see. We have counted up 200 million of funding raised by the companies having been part of the F10 ecosystem so far, which is, I would say, a significant number. If you compare it to the whole industry, to FinTech, etc., it's still very, very small, but we're working on 10x this, obviously. If you look at the current year, there was already 50 million raised by the companies from F10, which is, in comparison to the total, a record year, right? And Most interesting here is one company, you probably have heard of the company, right? Yokoi, they did a 26 million Series A round, which is, you know, kind of a very special thing for Switzerland, for Swiss companies. It's already half of the 50 million we had in the total funding. So this shows a little bit, you know, what's going on in the ecosystem, and I think this is very exciting. And I would expect that this will, you know, over the next couple of years will, you know, really massively increase and also show kind of, you know, what F10 is all about. But there's more, there's awards. In Switzerland, there are a couple of awards. The Swiss FinTech Award, as you know, it's like, I would say it's the #1 award if you are working in FinTech and the InsurTech space. There are 2 alumni, again, Yokoi, FQX, they were the winners. A couple of others were in the finals. If you look at other awards, which are not totally focused on FinTech, like the Venture, backed by McKinsey, for instance, there's Lina, ASOT, they were part of the finalists and winners. And obviously the biggest award in Switzerland around startups, around the top 100 startup awards. There's also a handful of companies coming from the F10 ecosystem to, you know, win these awards, and this shows a little bit, you know, we are relevant, right? All together we are relevant, and I think, you know, we should shout out and not hold back, because in Switzerland we tend to be always understatement, which I think is not really necessary, because we can create very, very good cases. Let me talk a little bit about the ecosystem. F10 has 3 main stakeholders in the ecosystem. The startups we have already talked about, right? Great. It's developing. We have our corporate partners. They're all here. No, they're not here. They used to be here on the screen, right? We are also growing in terms of, you know, getting our corporate partners on board here. And my team told me I'm not allowed to disclose any names of new partnerships. So that's why I said, okay, then if I'm not allowed to show the names, then I'm going to talk about the numbers. So we are about to announce 6 new partners here in Switzerland, which I think is great. Means, you know, again, big growth in terms of the network. And we're going to have 2 new partners in Singapore, which I think is also great. And there's going to be a couple of new ones also in Spain. I'm not worried about, but, you know, do it one step after each other, right? So last but not least, I would like to talk a little bit about the mentor network as well. So as you know, we have a lot of mentors. In the meantime, it's like 200 people globally involved in F10. If you would actually sum up the industry expertise of all these mentors, 200 times, I don't know what, like 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, 7 years expertise. It's a massive amount of human capital and expertise we have in the network. And I think I'm also extremely proud of having these people here among the group here in the room, as well as obviously also those who are joining online, our mentors. So thanks very much for being so engaged with F10. I think you are the ones who bring in the expertise. Right, we would never be able, you know, to maintain such a pool of knowledge if we, you know, we from the F10 would have to do that. So a big shout out and thank you to all the mentors being always involved and engaged with the startups, as well as also with our corporate partners. So this is it, basically from my side. I think this is the boring part of the whole F10 Global Summit. So I'm now handing over again to Mark, and I wish all the startups being on stage today, you know, an exciting time. Thanks very much for being here, and hopefully see you later on when we can have a, you know, a beer or maybe a glass of water. Thanks very much and have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. Indeed, impressive numbers. And I think we can dive just a little bit more. Andy called it boring stuff. I hope not to bore too much, but just a few additional words also from the Switzerland perspective. So number one, you might have seen my face the first time today. It has been announced a good month ago, maybe 2 months now, that I will be heading the F10 Switzerland. So I'm really proud and also humbled to take this role, and hopefully together with all of you make Switzerland really making a mark in the innovation space for FinTech as well as InsurTech. You see a little bit my background. It's all around startups, since 15 years involved in the ecosystem, but then also banking, mainly wealth management at UBS and strategy consulting. So Andy touched on the ecosystem, right? I'm not going to mention too many words, but this is really, and this is why we repeat about it again and again and again. This is really what makes F10 strong. I think also this is what enables us to have a dent in the innovation space. Just how do we make this work, right? And maybe also to give you the background of the two parts today that the sessions are. The first part will be actually on your side also, right? Okay, on the acceleration part, where the more mature startups are in there. This will be supported with the panel discussions that we will just start in a minute or two. And on the other side, we have the incubation startups, where it's really earlier, more about the idea, the founders, the team, and where we will see all the pitches later this afternoon. Very quickly, incubation program for us and the applications just closed for the next round is really a 5 months in-depth program, intense, with a lot of mentoring and the 5 masterclasses through 6 weeks. And the incubation program is really focused on making the collaboration work between the startups and the corporate partners. With that, also here, we have some collaborations to announce today. That are happening. We have 6 partnering with Dietster from Sweden. Jim will also be on stage later. Then HITS Generali goes all in with 2 partnerships, Confuzio as well as Neuroprofiler, and 6 actually also with 2 partnerships with IOC Group. Hopefully there will be more. I know a few are in the making. So we will see more of that coming, and that's really what we think is the best way to show that open innovation can work. It's really when these partnerships happen. With that, just really briefly about the program. You have it also on the back of your cards. It's now going into the panel discussions. We'll start with open banking, then go into InsurTech, and afterwards into sustainable finance. After that, I think all of us will need a break. And after the break, we'll come back with Flow first. They are actually sponsoring the tool we will be using tonight or this afternoon. I'm always, with these stars here, it's tough. The tool that is for the investor voting. So also you have a QR code on the badges. I think online you should also have seen the QR code so that they definitely do your investments there. And then the pitching with the demo day before we go into networking. With that, these are the 12 growth stage, right? The acceleration startups that will now join us in groups for the panel discussions. And let's start with the first panel. I would like to welcome on stage Jürgen from Raiffeisen. Please come on in. Then we have Gregor from SIX, bringing B-Link on stage as well. Then Andreas, I've been told, is online, as well as Karina, and I think also Julian from Divisent and Art Recognition. Do we bring them on the video? I think you need microphones. Who does the distribution of the microphones? Shall I? When we just sit in the middle? Yeah. 2 seats will remain empty this time. Cool. Now we can see you as well online. Welcome. Glad you can make it. I know we touched on it before, right? It's clear we would have loved everyone to be here, but yeah, the situation is what it is, and I think we are doing great in making the best out of it. With this, welcome to the first panel around open banking. And I would like to start just with a quick introduction by everyone, maybe 1 minute, who you are, what you're doing, and then we dive into some of the questions. Maybe we just start on stage. Gregor.
Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Super, perfect, thank you very much. My name is Gregor. I'm working for SIX at the B-Link team, the leading Swiss open banking hub in Switzerland. From my background, I have a 15 years career in Swiss financial industry, within the insurance industry, the wealth. I worked for a leading wealth management company, as well as doing some work on my own startup in the PFM, personal financial management space. That's about me.
Thank you very much, Gregor. Jürgen, over to you.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Jürgen Petri. Many years ago, I studied physics, but as you can't make a living from this usually, I switched to IT. I worked for several decades in IT project management. Then, about 8 years ago, I entered the field of banking. Now I'm in the innovation department of Raiffeisen Schweiz, the third largest banking group in Switzerland, working on innovation. And furthermore, I'm in the largest trade association in Switzerland dedicated to innovation, which is named Swiss FinTech Innovations, as a co-director and a leader of the working group Common API.
Perfect match, obviously, as well. Thank you very much, Jürgen. Let's go online. Andreas, why don't we start with you?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Andreas. I'm a co-founder and CEO of F10. We are actually helping businesses to connect and manage data from diverse systems, third parties, and any other data source to have one single source of truth, so easily just plug and play. Although my background is not in IT, my background is actually in legal. I studied law, and for the panel, also really interesting for me, I did my PhD on open banking and PSD2, so happy to share also my insights on it and happy to be here, at least virtually.
Thank you so much. Karina, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Karina. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Art Recognition. I'm also a physicist like Jürgen. I have a degree in theoretical particle physics. From there on, I moved to finance. I was a quant at Credit Suisse for a while. And after that, I have founded together with a friend Art Recognition. Art Recognition is offering an AI tool for art authentication and forgery detection. We are almost 3 years on the market now and quite successful, I'd say. And I'm looking very forward to sharing my insights with you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Julian Divisend.
Great. Thanks for having us. Hi, I'm Julian, CTO and co-founder of Divisend. So we are creating the world's first platform for the digitized refund of withholding taxes on foreign dividends. To me, I have a computer science background, so I'm the technical co-founder. Actually, also here for our CEO Thomas Rockold, which you might know, and excited to be here. So thanks for having us.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's dive into the first part, which will be focused more on stage and the corporate view on what is happening. And then we'll come back right to you online as well to see what your repliques are, but also what you are currently working on. Maybe we start with the big question. What is happening? What are the big trends that you see upcoming in the next maybe 3 to 5 years? Jürgen, we start with you. What are you doing with the trade association?
With FinTech Innovations, we're heavily working on the standardization process for banking and insurance APIs, and this is a central enabler for anything what is related to open banking, and especially also for what should be of interest for fintechs, and we have already managed to also get banks implementing those APIs we specified. We have some projects on access to account, payments, mortgages, as well as on wealth, and we just started on a card API addressing the credit and then furthermore the debit cards. So we have a situation where it's slowly it's getting faster. We had the problem in the beginning that the open banking topic was heavily dominated from the PSD2 regulation in the EU, which made it very, very hard to get people on the table to discuss topics like this. But since it has proven that the real invention of PSD2, didn't force the banking sector to break down completely. It's easier to start discussions. It's also easier to activate all the stakeholder groups involved, banks as well as software companies and consulting companies. And this, I think, is a very good time, also for the startups, yeah, to check and try to find out where new opportunities are to establish new innovative business models.
On your end, Gregor, what are you seeing? Obviously, you're deeply involved with the API business.
Sure, thank you, Mark. Look, I believe the world and the Swiss, and not only the Swiss financial industry, but the world financial industry per se is going into a world of embedded finance and platform banking. And what does that mean? I believe, like the value chain, how it exists today, it will completely shake up. And maybe it's not about in 5 years, maybe it takes a little bit more, especially in Switzerland, where it's everything taking a little bit more of time. But this is going to be, and what's happening then, for me, it's clear, like you have certain kind of a new structure of the market, and there will be, like players who will be focusing on the back end of the industry, and players who will focus on the front end of the industry. While the back-end players, they will always serve those front-end players. They have to look for scale. I believe, like the front-end players, they need to look, like where is value created. They need to manage the customer experience, a seamless customer experience. They need to be at physically and also mentally at the point where the customer lives, where he is, in order to create value and that they can maintain a relationship with the clients. And I think, like also here for all the startups, that is going to be the momentum where it rooms up a lot of room for new opportunities. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you touched on back-end, front-end, embedded finance, and how all this comes together. Maybe as a follow-up question, what are you working on currently to make these different parts come together seamlessly?
I'm now talking a little bit more about the billing perspective. Billing, for those who don't know that, is the open banking platform for Switzerland, operated by SIX. Look, I believe we have to and in this world where we have back-end and front-end players, we see ourselves as the connecting element in between. So this is the aim of billing. And for this, I have, let's say, 2 questions. How can we create value for the back-end of the industry, and how can we create value for the front end of the industry that they meet on billing? These are the main 2 questions. And it's like always in life, how can we create value? That is for us the biggest question. And there's like, take the example of a car. What is the value of a car if you do not have any streets? It's going to close to be zero, because unless you have a big SUV where you can ride across all over the fields, you cannot drive without the car. And this is exactly what we believe we can do. We have to create those streets. And if you look at the streets needs to be, first we need to create the streets, and this is where also we are working together with Jürgen. So create the connections, create the connectivity. And the second thing is we need to make them smooth, fast, and many connections. So it's a little bit, like from one side, it's about the number of connections, and the other side is a little bit more about the quality. And especially also here, and you mentioned it already before, I'm very thankful for that. We think now, okay, how can we partner with the ecosystem here at F10? And if we're talking about, more the quality aspect of the ecosystem or of billing, the more the numbers and how to get more connections. I think that Jürgen obviously showed, and we're working to get more players on billing. But if we're focusing on the quality side, how can we create today more value for either the back or the front end? We are very happy, to partner with certain kind of startups. The first startup, you already mentioned it before, we are evaluating a partnership with Niklas from Deedster. Niklas, where are you? Here, super, welcome here to Switzerland. Niklas has a carbon footprint calculator, which works perfectly on financial transaction data. So with such data, we believe we can deliver more value towards the front end of the industry. And also the second thing is also I'm very happy that he's on stage today with Andreas, where we're also evaluating a partnership from Ecstasy. They have something like, there it's like creating additional connectivity with their adapter, and I'm sure he will tell us later more about it. We are convinced to have to get, you know, like the data we have today on the billing platform directly into any kind of third-party tool, which a company which is using already our front end and from the front seamlessly. Imagine here, like you would be the guy at, you know, like at the bank, you know, like doing some analytics work with the BI tool, and you just can connect the data from billing also into that BI tool. Those are the ideas we're working on.
Thanks a lot. So basically mentioning the marketplace that you're currently touching on. Jürgen, maybe briefly, what is ticking at Raiffeisen?
We're currently in a very fundamental process. Yeah, we have had a renewal of our group strategy in the last 2 years. Yeah, we have laid off a program of 12 strategy projects for the next 5 years. Yeah, so we have on one hand we have the challenge to bring those projects forward. Yeah, and to still keep an eye on what happens during the time we do this. Yeah, so it's a very exciting time. Yeah, and it's a very challenging time as well.
Perfect, challenging but also exciting. We take this one. I would like to open and extend to the online panelists. Maybe we start with the question where you can also briefly introduce what you're doing. I think you already touched on it a little bit, but if needed, just mention it. But where do you think can you as a startup help with the challenges that we just have heard? Maybe we start this time with Julian.
Yeah, thank you. So what I found quite interesting. So I think PSD2 was also mentioned, and of course, especially in the EU, everything with payments is standardized more or less, not perfectly, but at least a bit. But everything related to securities and wealth management is not. And that's why, for example, we are also member of Open Wealth, and this approach that's taken there is just really, really holistic, I'd say. So they really consider everything about the wealth situation of an individual or a company or whatever. And I think this is definitely the way to go. So what we are also developing, so for this withholding tax reclaim platform, we of course need to weigh for the users, and not only big corporations, but also people like you and me, to get their portfolios into our platform. So how do we do that? And essentially that's what we've been working on, because we somehow need to unify all these securities APIs from all the different countries and the different banks. So for example, in Germany, this involves re-implementing standards like FinTS, HPCI, but also third-party providers, and then also native APIs from banks. And the more international we are becoming, the more complexity is, of course, accumulated there. And so I guess when these APIs that are coming from Switzerland, and the Swiss banks are, of course, world leaders in their business, then that can be really beneficial also to other countries and other wealth management hubs.
Yes, thanks a lot for diving into this. Karina, you have a little bit a different angle to it. How are you supporting the ongoing challenges that are happening?
Indeed, Mark. So what we do at Art Recognition doesn't really fit into the standard fintech definition, I'd say. Nevertheless, I believe that our AI software for art authentication is quite relevant in the investment context. right? So, I mean, we see, lately, especially during the pandemic, that art has become a very popular and very accessible, asset class, also for retail investors. So people like you and me, to use the same formulation as Julian, can invest like $100, into NFTs or a fraction of an artwork. Now everyone has the possibility to buy like shares of art on various platforms. Nevertheless, authentication still remains one of the main risks of art trading. And with that in mind, I believe that this risk can be mitigated, especially, in the modern era, with the help of a digital authentication engine, such the one offered by art recognition, basically. So, I mean, you can't like quickly trade shares of art and wait like for a half a year on experts, to give their a verdict. That doesn't work. So you really need something, that goes with the time. So in this respect, to answer your question in a nutshell, I believe that we at Art Recognition, we can cover like the due diligence aspect of art trading, especially on, large platforms such as SDX, but also others.
Well, thanks so much. I think spot on. Just to add on, and Gregor, you already touched on it, Actasy, how are you connecting? I'm sure like how the backend side rather that we heard before, what are you doing there?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Maybe I want first to mention one other point to what Gregor and Jürgen also was saying, because at least how I see and how we understand it, open banking is more than just opening up and exchanging of information, because that is something you can do enforcing by law, which PSD2, etc., is trying to do. But even with that, it's not really open banking, because at least in our understanding, open banking is more also a cultural shift that you want to exchange with other ones. You want to build an ecosystem, what you are, currently doing at F10, obviously not on an open banking level, but potentially you get the point. So what we are saying here, what we are doing at Actasy, actually, we developed the technology to easily connect any system, whether it's a legacy banking technology system, whether it's an insurance system, whether it's a CRM, an ERP, different system, communicate and collaborate over one easy data model. And that is basically what we at Actasy are doing, and what we believe we can add value, for example, to B-Link and other players on the market, that we can bridge the spot between open banking, open insurance technologies and solutions to the outside systems like ERP systems, like CRM systems, like marketing systems, and so on, so that all of it together is more than open banking and open finance, open insurance. It's like an open data world.
Wow, thank you for that. So basically, what I take away is that regulation gives you PSD2, in that sense, gives you some part of opening up and open banking, but actually what we are currently doing and trying in Switzerland without the regulators, let's say corset, we are going beyond that and hopefully already opening with open wealth that we have heard, but also what you just mentioned, diving into also CRM data and more, a whole new spectrum and hopefully a very exciting open world for the banks and beyond that we are building in Switzerland. I've been told we've come already to the end in terms of time. Thank you very much for joining and sharing your insights. Thank you also online for dialing in and joining us virtually. Big hand of applause. Now, Bjarne, why don't you handle the InsurTech one? I keep the mic, sorry, you need to get it. Yeah.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bjarne Barth Albertini. Welcome to the InsurTech panel. It's obviously not about me, so it's all about the participants here on the stage as well as online. So we start with a quick round of introductions as well. Ruth, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Ruth Armale from the House of InsurTech Switzerland. We are an innovation unit that does customer-centric innovation. And we do that by partnering with startups. Some of you here, you've also seen the announcement of a couple of partnerships. We do that by following innovation methodologies. So we innovate throughout the whole ideation stage, POC, MVP, towards scaling, so launching and scaling. And we do have also an innovation garage. And I'm mentioning that because we're currently at the garage co-working with about 15 startups. Some of those are F10 alumni. And yeah, just if you're interested as well about joining the garage, please reach out. We would have space also for allocating some startups. The last point that I'd like to mention, House of InsurTech Switzerland, we are actually like our shareholders and business stakeholders are Generali. Generali is one of the largest insurance and asset management company worldwide. We're present in 50 countries, and we do have this mission of becoming the lifetime partner for our customers. We have 56 million of customers, so for some of the startups, obviously a very good platform for scaling and testing some of the new innovations. We generated 70 billion in premium last year and are managing assets for 660 plus billion. So that's also, like, as you can imagine, quite a lot of investment, business and opportunities there.
Thank you.
Hans Zimmermann. I'm the co-founder of Sustema. We are providing behavioral analytics to corporate insurance, so not personal lines insurance, but corporate insurance. And we have started about 4 years ago, and we are still in the startup phase, and we are looking for insurance companies to become our customers. So we cannot talk about the millions in income yet, but maybe who knows later on. So my background, I've been in insurance for over 30 years, all of it basically in corporate insurance, where I was the head of underwriting at Swiss Re for the corporate business, and later on for a smaller insurance company, Infrasure, where I was the chief underwriting officer. And the whole idea of behavioral analytics came actually from that role, that I figured that in insurance, in corporate insurance, I have to say again, the behavioral analytics doesn't actually play into the assessment of the risk in a systematic way. And that's what we bring to the table.
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Philip. I say I'm the Francesco Totti of the Balois. Francesco Totti is a football player that was his whole life at AS Roma. It's the same like me. I started with 16. Now I'm 42, so it's 27 years at the same company, which is really a cool experience. At the moment, I'm responsible for new business and partnerships at Balois Switzerland. So we test and learn as well, a little bit like House of InsurTech Switzerland. We started 5 years ago with a bit approach, I would say, dream big, start small, scale fast. We gain a lot of customers. At the moment, we are more not only in the InsurTech space, but more in the PropTech space, because there we see as well some things we can do with our old school salespeople and the new school startups. We work together. And for Andy, he mentioned about winning prizes in Switzerland. You have 2 corporate partners that are won globally. At the Insurance Oscar, HITS won the gold medal. We, in another category, the silver medal, and we beat China Life that has more employees than us customers. So it's, and where we learned that, I'm pretty sure, why is it HITS and Balois, we learned to do innovation 4 or 5 years ago, because innovation is learning, learning, failing, learning, learning. Huh?
Thank you. And now I'm passing on to two guys somewhere out there in the ether. Florian, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Florian. I'm the CTO at Confutio, and Confutio is the only declarative AI platform. So it means it combines state-of-the-art NLP algorithm with computer algorithm to make it easy to automate the understanding of documents. And our platform learns from the first example. So it takes the road from a small POC to a production AI-ready system in a seamless, continuous way. And that enabled us to also partner here with Generali to have our POC done in a way where there is something working, something usable that now can be expanded on and become, go the way into production. And happy to see you and to discuss this with you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Bernie.
Hey there, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Bernie, founder and CEO of Signed Identity. My background is in payments, so kind of a 23, 24-year payment veteran turned identity aficionado, and this is what we are doing in Signed Identity. We're a one-stop shop provider for all kinds of identity management, customer onboarding, electronic signature, up until payment, and super happy to be here.
Thank you. Right, let me quote the late and great Steve Jobs, who said, "You cannot understand what is happening today without understanding what came before." So if we cast our mind back over the last 5 years or so, what were the major developments in the InsurTech space over that period of time? Ruth, would you like to go first?
Yes. So I think we've seen a lot of it. It has evolved a lot. That's very clear. I think 5 years ago, it was not even perceived as its own space. I think it was a subsector of fintech. And nowadays, I think that stands on its foot, and it has quite a lot of growth projections. Currently, there are about 3,000 startups that claim the InsurTech label, so quite a broad kind of space there with lots of InsurTechs. And if we look at, especially for the startups, if we follow with the money that it's been invested, there has been some reports recently that are really kind of growing very nicely and very steadily. So we're currently at 10.5 billion of investment worldwide on InsurTech only, globally, which it's growing at a compound annual growth of about 48%. So we see really the last 5 years picking up very nicely. And if we look at the early stage, because most of this funding, it's coming from mega investments. So those are mega rounds, which means as well that the sector is maturing. There is enough big companies to invest over 200 million. And if we look at the early stage, which is probably a bit more relevant in that rounds here, we have the equivalent of 1.5 billion. So I think there is enough capital, there is enough traction, and I think it's a very interesting space.
Thank you. Philip, from your perspective as a corporate.
Yeah, I often talk to my mom what changed, and if you ask the customers what changed, it's not so much. Sure, there is embedded finance, embedded insurance, but the problem statement is still the same. And I will compare it because insurance is not sexy and not a physical product. It's like a gold rush that started 5 years ago. There is the gold with the customers. There are the gold diggers that are the big, large insurers. Then there is coming the WeFoxes that are trying to take some of the gold of us. Then there are the producer of the showers. And then there are the shower sellers. And then there are coming new startups that build larger showers. And then there's the whole infrastructure thing, which I think you are in, making hotels in this village where you're going to look for the gold. So it's really an ecosystem that is growing and maturing, I'm pretty sure. And it's going more from, there are the challenges like VFox, like Lemonade, and there are the more matured startups that say, hey, I can help you. That was 5 years ago. Now it's, I can help you in the large business in underwriting skills. It's getting really major.
Thank you. So I think the message is that the space has developed quite significantly. Now, there are no prizes for guessing the next question. I'm looking at the startups in particular. Maybe, Hans, starting with you, what do you perceive as the key trends going forward in InsurTech?
I mean, I'm not the right person to talk about InsurTech. As you can see, I've grown out the startup age, so to speak, but still, I think one has to really distinguish between two different insurance types. And I always say personal lines is something else, can be compared to retail banking, and there is no reason why in personal lines business we should have the same development over in the future as we see it in retail banking. But then when it comes to commercial or corporate insurance, I think we will see a lot of developments on the technical side, risk management side, where you can measure risk in a different fashion than 10 years ago, or what we are doing, where we bring in the behavioral risk into the underwriting process. So I still see a lot of development there, but I would always distinguish between personal lines and commercial lines business.
Thank you for that, Hans. And just passing on to our colleagues over there. Bernie, you want to go first from your perspective? What trends do you see?
Sure, I'm happy to do so, especially because I'm coming from a slightly different angle here, as I'm not particularly InsurTech, but more coming from like a broader perspective, like dealing with identity, interactions, and verification in general. What many of our the speakers before said is about the state where InsurTech is currently now, and we see the same thing here. So InsurTech is lagging a little bit behind. Which is not a bad thing, actually, because what we can see is trends that hit global trends that hit other industries and how those industries behaved, how those acted, and how we can learn of what worked and what did not work from the big techs or banking, as we talked about it. That's why I want to come from a slightly broader perspective, more looking at society behavioral point of view. And what we're seeing where trends where combination of software, personalized services are increasingly successful in today's world, because there's larger demand for individualization of services. There's the demand for perfect transparency of information, simple process, and especially interacting at the convenience or the time of the consumer, especially looking at the consumer side, but also true for the corporate side. And I think reacting to this immediacy of wish and intent in the kind of fastest possible way, while being there for special questions and special needs, is what allows us to win back loyalty in this click and forget world, which we're more and more into. And also like a trend of seeing more lifestyle-based specific product wishes of those new target groups that were coming up. Because like Philip said, the insurance business stays more or less the same, but the demands of the people and how they are getting that, consuming those insurances, that has changed significantly. The best example is going into banking. So why are those neobanks so successful if they only cover like on average 5% of the service spectrum of a traditional bank? Because those 5% are exactly the 99% that give relevance to the users. And I think this is the one big aspect. The other aspect is the channels themselves, because people kind of they're not you cannot put them into channels anymore like you could have done before. People are consuming their services where they want and when they want. And that's also one of the reasons, for example, why we do full AML-D5 compliant end-to-end onboarding for bank accounts through WhatsApp or through messengers, because people, they're here, they're interacting there, they're interacting with their friends, they open their bank account, they do the payment, they even sign contracts with that channel that is just the right, convenient one. And this is something where there's a big growth opportunity for smaller companies that are coming into the insurance space together with those established players in here. That's kind of my 50 cents on that.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Florian, before we come back to the room here.
Yeah, I think really interesting point is the maturity, and it's like across everything. We can look at like the customers that want like smart online platforms to monitor their current contracts, get new offers, but it's like even within the company, if you look at like back office, like if there's like old school or bothersome IT, it's also not nice for your own employees. And also like the perspective on AI and automation technology, we see like a huge increase like in all verticals or markets that and it's also like shifting to no code or low code, that like the business can directly benefit from AI usage. Like there's a problem and AI is monitoring it, and like even if it's like the small things, it learns and helps. Like for example, if you think like an online form and if you enter your details, you expect like auto completion. If you enter your personal ID and okay, this company, they should already have it. So it's like really the convenience, and it's like these convenience bring AI into it. And I think if you like offer like any kind of IT system where it's like super dumb, it's like always needs the IT component, needs to say, hey, we are smart, we show something. And this is like also the approach with Confutio to build a platform that learns and brings value in like processes without having a team of 50 data scientists that are specialized. It's really connecting the algorithm with the data and bringing a mature service out there. And like we can speak about like one of our use cases we had. It's like we have realized some insurance premiums or offers were not even calculated because it's just too bothersome to collect the infos to calculate your premium. And if you just use mature services that say, okay, this information is in that document, it's just there with a single click, then, well, it generates business and makes everyone more happy.
Very good, thank you. I think we have about 5 more minutes, so I'm keen to obviously get also the view of the insurers, because there's no future for InsurTech without the insurers. Philip, would you like to go first before Ruth?
Yeah, the future already started. Just an example, we heard about APIs and embedded finance it's as well in insurance, but nobody finds the right answer to bring the core business into embedded finance. I'm pretty sure that IKEA and Swiss Re or iptiQ, they made it a cooperation. They have more LinkedIn clicks than customers, because when I go to IKEA, I want to buy something, and my household insurance at Mobilior still exists for 7 years. But we had because we are as well in embedded insurance, but these are particular small things like peer-to-peer platforms. And we had our best day in getting new customers was on a Saturday, 500, where our salespeople is on the golf place or wherever. So I'm pretty sure we have to be more the chance manager than the risk manager. About risk managers, we have a lot. And to see where is the value chain, where we are good, where we are not so good, where we don't have a focus, and then to go and partnering even more in the future. Is it only startups? It's about skills and talents. And it's cool that, how old are you? 62-year-old man as well is like kind of a startup. But it's more about collaboration that is coming in the future.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Ruth, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I actually like the perspective also of Philip when he was talking about the InsurTech and how it resonates with our customers. I think that you need to have really the view on the customer side. By the way, I also love the gold digger story. I'm not sure how it's gonna be if I explain it, but anyway. But going back to the customers, I think that that's like the interface where we're gonna see quite a lot of trends happening. A lot of the work that we're doing with the 2 startups, one of them, Confutio, has to do with working with agents. So we are developing those phygital solutions, so physical and digital solutions brought together. So we see that as a trend going forward. And then again, we see a lot in this digital transition from the customer perspective. They are becoming more aware and care much more about their data and personal identity. So that's also something that we will see growing as well, not only on the physical assets, but also on intangible assets, anything to do on that domain, like cyber insurance. And the last one that I want to mention, the third and last one, it's about sustainability. There is a lot of topic, like a lot of innovation happening on sustainability, insurance, big investors as well, and asset managers. So right now, driven by regulation on the whole ESG, but also from the customer perspective, more and more caring about products that will benefit and have a positive impact. That's a good way, I think, for transitioning to the next panel. So,
well, thanks for reminding me. I would have missed it. Given we are in Switzerland and being on time is a national pastime, I think the last thing that's left for me to say is a huge thank you to our panelists here on the stage and you guys out there online, and also a big thank you to the audience online and here in the room for your time and attention. Thank you.
I think we also thank
So, thank you so much, Ruth, for this elegant leading over to the last but not least panel, sustainability. I'm Debbie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome also from my side. I'm a startup coach at F10, and some of you might know me. And I have an amazing panel, which I would like to now welcome up on stage. We have Deedster, Nicholas Pearson, one of our startup from the acceleration batch. Welcome, Nicholas. Then we have Nosa. I haven't seen him yet. Nosa is here. Nosa is from our startup Weave AI. And then we have Girish, who is online. Welcome. Girish couldn't travel here, unfortunately, due to the quarantine regulations from the UK. And then we have Günther Dobras from PwC, one of our esteemed partners here at the F10. And then last but not least, we have Sebastian from Six Financial Information. Please, guys, just have a seat. I have no particular order. And you will be equipped with microphones. I won't bite, I promise. Just we have a little bit of a distance here. Okay, so I would say let's also start with an introduction round. Nicholas, if you would like to go first, and then please also just let us know what you guys are doing with your company, and of course who you are, so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure, thank you, Debbie, and hello everyone. I'm Nicholas Persson, CEO and co-founder of Deedster, and my background is almost 20 years in capital markets technology for banks and brokers pretty much all over the world, particularly here in Switzerland. But since 5 years back, absolutely dedicated to push transitions towards sustainable consumption with the Deedster platform, which is about enabling the shift to sustainable consumption. We provide data-driven guidance on sustainable consumption, actionable insights for carbon emissions for consumers on bank and payment platforms. So pretty much banks, payment providers, retailers use our technology to empower their customers, retail customers, in taking climate action. So tools and analytics to understand impact of consumption and make informed and conscious decisions about spendings, pretty much.
Great, thank you. Günther?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's always great to be here. So my name is Günther Dobras. I'm a partner with PwC in Switzerland, and I'm leading legal for Switzerland. So this is where the motivation in the room usually goes really down, and not a lawyer, which is true. But I think the other thing that I'm doing is I'm one of the co-founders of Excelixis, which is investing in startups, and in particular in the circular economy sphere and related to blockchain. So that's kind of the interesting part, right? And I think if you look into my CV for the past 20 years or so, it has been largely about sustainability and not obviously about blockchain, because that only started like 10 years ago for me. But I've been trying my very best to bring it to the front. And if I can help somewhere with startups, I'm very happy to do that.
Thank you. Nosa, please.
Thank you very much for being here. Nosa Omoigwe, I'm CEO and founder of Weave AI. We're based in the US. My background is mostly in AI. I was at Amazon before starting Weave AI. I was the head of the machine learning and AI platform team there. Also, my background prior to that, I was at Microsoft Research in Seattle. So what we do is two sort of broad areas when it comes to sustainability. One is sort of benchmarking, monitoring, helping both asset managers and companies sort of analyze large amounts of data to be able to essentially see where they stand relative to their peers, monitor what their peers are doing industry-wide. As we automate the analysis of large amounts of ESG data, ESG reports, we build scorecards automatically, and sort of the AI essentially helps automate the process of identifying what's being greenwashed, what's real, what's material, and that happens automatically. And also we extend that to sort of helping companies analyze their entire supply chains. So now rather than just looking at themselves, you know, new regulatory requirements that just went into effect this year mandate that companies now have to, in the EU, have to know what's going on across their entire supply chain. So we're talking about, in some cases, tens of thousands of companies. So it's just huge amounts of data. Same applies with asset managers that have to track portfolio risk across their entire portfolios. And then the other big bucket where we've gotten a lot of interest is in education. You know, clients want to invest sustainably, but there's a huge knowledge gap in terms of what clients want to do and what the investment advisors are able to provide in terms of ideas and tips and so forth. So there's a huge knowledge gap. That's a very well-established problem. So we're helping some of the big asset managers automate how they educate their advisors about sustainability as well.
Thank you, Nozo. Very interesting. And Sebastian, please.
Hi, my name is Sebastian Segura. I'm with Six Financial Information. I'm the head of innovation, ESG, and analytics, a new practice we set up beginning of the year. This is part of our new strategy, and our clients have been very vocal on wanting us to be more active in helping them with their sustainability issues. The value proposition that we really have created is around helping financial institutions mainly in their investment decision processes and also all the regulatory obligations that comes with that. And we're mainly taking two roles today, being a global trusted aggregator in the ESG space, but also providing and producing high quality ESG content and services.
Thank you. And last but not least, online, Girish, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Girish Narula. I'm the CEO of Argentum. We focus on climate transition risk, and some of the other panelists on here. We focus primarily with the financial service sector. We look at emissions data, we provide analytics, and we look into the portfolio emissions and how opportunities exist to manage those transitions in the future for the financial services sector. So some of our clients are asset managers, central banks, etc., which want to look at not just at their own emissions, but in their portfolio, so across the whole supply chain. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. And if people ask me what is the interesting thing about your job or the most interesting thing, it's these people, right, that just introduced themselves, that are, you know, looking at things from a very, very deep perspective. So I'm very lucky to have that environment also today. But let's talk about ESG and sustainable finance. I mean, it is the trending topic of the year, I would say. I have not really heard of anything else. This is probably also why we go last with this panel, to keep the spark. The financial industry has been dealing increasingly with ESG-related topics, sustainable finance, and so on. In my opinion, this financial industry doesn't always do stuff just because it's, you know, a nice to have. There's obviously a few challenges that also are now, you know, increasing the attention that the financial industry has on it. Maybe, Günther, in your opinion, when you look at the financial industry, let's say particularly in Switzerland, what are the challenges that you see arising now that cause them to act on the topic?
Well, there's obviously many challenges arising, but sticking to the one, I think we started to invest in the ESG theme some 6 years ago and tried to build it for the past 3-4 years. It didn't really fly, but the past 2 years, especially also helped by COVID, that really gave a boost to the industry. Now, what you're seeing is kind of twofold. So you see the companies that really want to do the right things. And obviously, there's also a lot of greenwashing going on, right? And we have to be very careful in terms of what we are touching. Ultimately, I think it's not about sustainability. It's an important step. It's really about circular economy. But the one thing I realized in 10 years of talking about is that most people don't know the difference, right? So we're kind of getting there, but ultimately I hope that we will get to a sustainable economy.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Sebastian, obviously from SIG's perspective or from your perspective, what would you say are the biggest challenges? And maybe adding to that, can you also maybe give an example of what you guys are working on, how you tackle these challenges at SIG's?
Sure. I don't think there's specific Swiss challenges. I think there's a global, every single client that we talk to, no matter where, have the same issues. And I think if we summarize what the main issues are today that our clients in the end are living, is a problem with the content, with the quality and availability of ESG content. That's the biggest issue they have. And standardization. I think what they constantly tell us is that they have to make decisions. They have to explain to their clients today who are becoming even more demanding, and they don't just take, okay, we have something you can invest in, this is a portfolio. They want to really understand the intimacy around what the impact is behind your decisions. The information is not updated very often. We see that a lot of what we seem to believe is company kind of disclosed data is actually not. In the market today, which is driven by company disclosed data, around 55 or more than half of all that data is not coming from the companies themselves. It's augmented data. And this is what they're telling us is a hard time understanding and comparing, because they have different sources of data coming from different people. You have analytics created on top of those. They're not comparable. You don't understand how they came to that result or how the augmented data was created. So these are kind of the main challenges I think that we're seeing in the market. I mean, what we are doing to tackle some of these is that obviously, I mean, we, beginning of the year, created an investment vehicle, so ESG benchmark indices here in Switzerland. That's a way for clients, for the investor to be able then to partake and invest in a smart way. And that's something that we did because we already had a footprint, we already had a benchmark index. I think that has been very popular. We're introducing more and more types of content, which is not always coming from the traditional sources, which is the company view. This is something that we're hearing more and more our clients, that beginning of the year, they were not open and to look at different types of sources. Even smaller companies would have very interesting products and services. Today, they're changing their minds. Today, they feel like they have to go in that direction. That show me, I want to have something to challenge the status quo. We're also supporting the regulatory issues and constraints that our clients are feeling, sometimes by sourcing data directly and sometimes by partnering up. But these are things that we're currently doing to try to do that. And I think the most important thing that we're also doing kind of related to that is we're creating communities. So I was surprised because we've been creating partner dinners, breakfast, lunches, bringing people together. And what really kind of resonates with everybody is the fact that everybody agrees on they don't know what's happening, they don't know sufficient, but having that people around you and sharing is becoming really, really strong, and it's really, really helping people in the end know which questions to ask.
Okay, thank you for this perspective and insights on how you at SIG's are dealing with some of these challenges. And obviously, F10 is famous for bringing startups together with the corporate world. That's what we stand for, right? And we've been able to facilitate and connect many use cases, as we've seen, that Mark showed us earlier. I have 3 startups sitting here with me today that are not just tackling some of these ESG challenges that the corporate world has, but they also have been successfully working with financial institutions. I would be curious to hear a bit more of you guys and how you concretely basically work with the larger corporates. Niklas, I know, for example, you are, as just been announced, working with SIG's. I know you're also working with Swiss Re here in Switzerland. Can you give us an example of a use case that you guys, so how are you helping these large enterprises to become more ESG aware and to tackle some of these challenges that we maybe also
Absolutely.
heard?
So maybe start with a problem at hand. Sustainable finance has many many different parts, and it's extremely important with green investments and decapitalizing fossil fuel industries and all that. But the fact is that 70% of global carbon emissions is directly linked to private consumption. And here's where the financial ecosystem will play a vital role in the change, because without consumers changing behavior, we will not make the targets on the Paris Accord agreement. And there is a great willingness among consumers to really change behavior, but they need to understand how. And here's where there is a beautiful role to play for banks and payment providers to present that kind of insights. Being at the heart of trade, at the very enabler of consumption, sitting on all the data we do in the financial world today, and with customers on digital tools, banks and payment providers are so well equipped to present the insight and guidance that people are looking for to make a change, to make a difference for the climate. So that's where we come in. We provide the data and analytics and insights for these banks, for payment providers, to present the kind of guidance to their customers. And it's also a great opportunity for banks to become more relevant to their customers, because there is so much energy into this, and particularly with the audiences that are interesting for banks, young adults, millennials, that they will be potentially more interesting in a personal carbon manager than a personal finance management tool. So that's really something to consider. So that's why we're so excited to be part of the initiative on B-Link and provide the Swiss banking sector with analytics and tools to provide to end customers in Switzerland.
Great, thank you so much for that. Girish, maybe you have an example for us, a use case, what you guys are working on, how you working with institutions in your value proposition.
Yeah, so we work with different institutions along the value chain for different use cases, with some for the regulatory reporting and footprinting, with others more on risk management. But what we have been seeing increasingly demanding from our clients is to look at the forward-looking opportunities. And one of the use cases that we work with a Swiss private bank is where we have looked at within their investment portfolio and tried to understand how they can themselves be aligned with net zero goals in the future, and how their portfolios need to change for that to happen. So that's quite interesting, because then it's not just looking at data for the perspective of regulatory reporting, but also trying to understand what the future might look like and how you need to do and what you need to do now to adapt to that. So that's something which we are doing at the moment as well.
Thank you so much. And Nosa, if you would like to share a use case maybe from your side.
Absolutely. So we're working with a variety of banks, most recently one of the biggest ones here in Switzerland, and also some of the biggest banks in the UK. The data management challenges are massive. I think people are often surprised when we show them some of the data that we unearth through AI. They don't even realize what ESG is. I mean, people take it for granted that people know what ESG is, but many people don't know how broad it is. What are the issues, right? If you're in the cement industry, you're the food industry, what are the issues industry-wide? What are the material ESG-related issues? And you'd be surprised the number of people that don't know. So you have an I don't know what I don't know problem. You have just obscene amounts of data if you're analyzing your peers or your entire sector. And it's not enough to just throw random numbers or rating across the fence, because now the regulations mandate transparency, explainability. You have to be able to show with the SFDR regulations, back up your sustainability claims. So now you're asking, these asset managers to analyze, 400-page reports multiplied by, the entire archive for one company. Now multiply that, but by every single company in a sector, or the entire supply chain, which could have 40,000 companies, and then they don't know what they don't know. So these problems just stack on top of each other. And so it's just a massive data management challenge. And AI is the only solution that enables them to do it scalably, efficiently, and so forth. So that's what we help them do. You have regulations now that mandate transparency in reporting. You have, they have to now start showing compliance reports. The EU due diligence law went into effect this year. Now the big companies are on the hook. If you have a supplier that is using child labor somewhere in Southeast Asia, in the past you could just say, oh, we didn't know. But now you're on the hook, right? And you could be fined up to 2% of global revenues. Just that, you know, and same thing with monitoring, you know, like I said, you know, investment portfolios. So our AI helps automate the entire process in terms of identifying what's material, unearthing what ESG even is in your industry. You know, who's doing what are the material issues, what's being greenwashed. According to BlackRock, only 15% of all the disclosures that companies make worldwide are material. Most of it is just fluff. But how do you know what is fluff, right? There's just no way to know. So our AI can determine automatically, extract what we call sort of smart talking points from these long reports, rank them by materiality. So we know the difference between a company saying, oh, we're thinking about doing A, B, and C, and then we actually did it. And if they did it, what specifically did they do, and how material was that? And so that also happens automatically. On top of that, we analyze. We don't just rely on what the companies are saying about themselves. We analyze third-party sources and so forth, and we determine if there's any drift between what the companies are disclosing about themselves and what we're seeing outside, right? And that's actually a very big source of greenwashing as well, where they underreport or they sort of, you know, don't disclose everything that they need to do. So we're helping across the entire stack, like I said, and it's not like in the past where this was just a nice to have. These are new regulations. In Switzerland, the new regulation kicks in a month on January 1st. The new fines, you know, for supply chain issues start to kick in at the end of next year. And so it's very, very time sensitive as well.
Thank you for that perspective, and that leads me kind of like, you know, speaking of regulation, and it sort of seems to be like this Damocles sword somehow, you know, in many cases is one of the reasons why the urgency, obviously, to now act and to look after ESG-related topic in the financial industry is becoming more urgent. I mean, regulation is one factor, yes. I don't know, maybe Günther, if you have any insights or any take on what is also driving the urgency now to act as a financial institution. I mean, these guys are all working with financial institutions also here from Switzerland. You guys have been quite modest in calling names, right? But I know there's a couple of financial institutions that have not really jumped on the bandwagon quite as much as maybe the larger institutions now. What happens if you do not act? What happens if you ignore the topic? What is the risk of not dealing?
Well, I'm a reg lawyer, so obviously I have to kick in with the regulation, but that's not it. That's just the end of it. I think if I have to put it into one sentence, it's that according to the WEF, every Swiss citizen, and that is male and female, is using 3.2 of our planet, right, in terms of natural resources. And that is not going to go very far. Now, it can be 4, it can be 2, it can be whatever, right? But it's more than 1. And that is still, you know, in a world where Africa and parts of Asia are still behind, so it kind of works out, but not for very much longer. So I think we can debate a million of years about what is going on and what not, but I think that is a crucial problem. And we may not have been in charge, and we have not been doing all of that, but we are the ones who can do it now for our children. Right, and I have a little son, and I don't want to look at him when he comes to me at one day and says, "What have you been doing?" Right? I'm not circular by any means. I'm just trying to get there a little bit every day, and I think that's the very simple thing. We have to understand that this is why we need to do it.
Or to maybe be put a bit less idealistic, if businesses do not care about the environment and other stuff, there will be no business to be had in the future or in the near future. Sebastian, maybe your take. What is driving you to work in the space? What is driving SIX to really innovate now and to really get on those topics?
Well, the other day, I was walking with my daughter. She's 4 years old. And she saw on the street a bottle, a plastic bottle. And she looks at me and says, "Daddy, look at that." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "That can't be good for the environment and for the world." And it just hit me at one point that my daughter, 4 years old, she's already been taught in school and to look and see things that, I mean, we were never thinking about that when we were 4 years old. So I think that is something that people are now forgetting a lot because you mentioned regulation. It's all about the regulation right now, but what we usually tell our clients and is you have investors behind you which you need to meet their demands and you're not listening to them. So you're just concentrating on the fact that you have to be compliant right now with regulation and everything that you have to do around that. But they're not sufficiently thinking about, actually, it's about providing the best analysis, the best content, the best services for you to help your client to make the best investment decision. And I think that's something that I would say, I mean, if you don't listen to your clients, you're going to be left behind. This is going so quickly. Even after 6 months, you will feel like you're out of touch with the market if you don't continue collaborating, continue looking at what's happening. But I think it's all about listen to your clients.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think I have actually many more questions to you guys, but I think we're a bit short of time. Of course, maybe just a very last question to Günther, because PwC has been a partner with F10 for many years, and I mean, you know, the tech startup scene quite well. Obviously, this is once again an opportunity for many tech stars, just like the ones we have here on stage, to support, right? What would you say? Why collaborate with a tech startup? What do they bring in terms of innovation? Yeah, what's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I know that I need to answer some of you because we had interesting discussions, but I was down with COVID and in America, and that was not so fun. So I'm getting back to you. No, but what it's really about is PwC has a lot of technology competence, but we are not a technology company, right? Again, I have to be very careful because there's cameras and whatnot, but at heart, that's just true. It's 250,000 people doing something with technology, but bringing the ideas, that's not what we do. So it's super, super important for us to see all the things you are bringing and to connect it to our clients. So in Switzerland, we have some 11,000 clients, and globally, I don't even know how many, but it's very important. And we're trying to bring more and more partners to the game, really get them to look at what you're doing, and hopefully to link that all up. And that is basically where we all win, right? And where we all have something to bring to the table.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of other sustainability-related startups going to be here more on stage also later. They are very, very innovative. You should really stay tuned and look at what they're doing. I think they really can make an impact when it's about tackling those challenges and helping our ecosystem in Switzerland and global, of course, to judge of some of that, what we discussed. I think I want to close it here. Thank you so much to my panel. It was very, very interesting. Round of applause for you guys. And that is also the call for the break, ladies and gentlemen. We have a 10 to, we gather here again, 10 to 4. So please have a coffee outside, chat some panelists and among yourselves and enjoy, and we'll be back soon.